Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Municipality of Central Elgin would like to acknowledge that we gather on the land of the McKee Purchase, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaron, and Mississauga Nation. Does anyone have any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof tonight? Seeing none. Would you read the motion concerning the minutes, please, Mrs. Wilson?
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Council dated Monday, January the 24th, and the special meeting of Council dated Monday, January the 31st of 2022 be adopted.
Is there any questions? How would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook?
She did unmute.
I did unmute.
It didn't come through, Councillor Cook, sorry. Yeah, she was.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. Tonight we have one delegation. We have Ed Finlan from the Port Stanley Sailing Squadron. And I'm going to ask Mr. Parent, he's let Mr. Finlan in. Mr. Finlan, or it's your opportunity now to present before council.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Worship. Thank you, Worship. I want to thank Central Elgin Council for the opportunity to present tonight. I'm on the executive of the Port Stanley Sailing Squadron as the current elected Commodore of the club. Our focus as Sailing Squadron since 1964 has been encouraging the sport of sailing. We organize a very popular sailing school for kids and adults in the community. We have many families from our community in the club. The club is made up of volunteers who have taken a great deal of their time to ensure the grounds and docks are in great shape on Kettle Creek. Many people visiting Port Stanley attend functions as guests and learn how to sail on Lake Erie. We also provide a safe anchorage and recreational facility for all members and sailors visiting from Canada and the United States. The club has organized races with Ontario Sailing and internationally sailing organizations. We are recognized in the Canadian sailing community as a knowledgeable group that shares with all those interested in our sport. Our concern tonight, Council, and my documentation filed with you is that we believe that Kettle Creek requires dredging this spring, 2022, on the north side and possibly on the south side of the lift bridge to avoid flooding issues and ensure safe passage for boats. We understand that Central Elgin has a dredging program for Kettle Creek because of the Riggs engineering report and their recommendations to council with respect to flooding issues dated July 14th, 2015. Development has taken place on both sides of the bridge, making this an important part of safety for all residents in our village. The report states on page 3, and I'm quoting, avoiding flood damages and allowing future development will require a commitment by the municipality to carry out dredging. As everyone here tonight understands, our village requires a safe flood management system to ensure Kettle Creek can allow ice and water a clear floodway route to the lake. Without proper dredging, this will not happen, and many homes and businesses would be affected by flooding. Our request to council is to commence a dredging program in the spring of 2022 that takes in the north side of the lift bridge upstream to ensure a safe floodway route for water and ice to the lake. This will also allow all boats with more than 300 docks in the creek a safe route to the lake. I did send council the letter that I sent to the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry in Elmer and their response. This provincial agency states it is responsible to the municipality to conduct dredging activities on Kettle Creek. I also understand that there is a Ministry of Environment report stating that the municipality of Central Elgin does have the lead responsibility to work with the provincial government to ensure sedimentation that occurs in Kettle Creek is surveyed annually to ensure it is adapting to severe rain events as a result of climate change. I want to thank all members of council for their attention to this important matter, as it does involve community safety in our beautiful village. I ask that you take on this work to ensure our homes and businesses are safe from flood damage, and that the boaters that use the creek have safe passage to the lake. Thank you so much for your time. Are there any questions, Your Worship?
Yes, I will. I'll ask council now if they have questions specifically for you.
Thank you.
Anyone on council? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wanting clarity on the response from the NDMNRF. They actually referenced Transport Canada as being the responsible party for that and being a crown portion of that creek. Would they, I was just wondering if you've also reached out to them to get a response as to how that works, because what I understand is that the municipality rents the land that gets you to the creek, but then after that it becomes Crown property and it's Transport Canada. So
yeah, I can address that, Councillor. If you look at the report, July 15, 2015, from Mr. Perrin, that was attached to the Riggs engineering report. And as I understand, this was during the divestiture of the federal government to the municipality. And I think you'll see there quite clearly, if you review those documents, that the municipality now has responsibility for dredging. Now, they do refer to the South Basin. However, the reality is, and from M&R, which you're quite right about saying Crown lands, I would agree with you on that. But what M&RF are saying is that it's either responsibility of the municipality or Transport Canada, the federal government. So if you look at the divestiture time period, it would seem as municipality. The other thing is that Ministry of Environment, and I will find the report, states that it is the responsibility of the municipality. But overall, the really important part to all this is that, in my opinion, respectful opinion, the municipality has to work with either the province or the feds to ensure that the waterway is dredged so that we don't have flooding and that there's safe passage. So whoever's responsibility, I mean, honestly, I don't know. It's confusing. What's really upsetting to me, and I think our concern with our club, is why would it be on us to do the dredging? It doesn't make any sense. So my request is that council, at the very least, look into finding out who's supposed to do it and that it gets done, because we're going to be in a very difficult situation. If we get another rain like we had on June 26th of last year, we could be in a very serious situation. And with all the very good development that's going on, we need to be concerned about this. So that's why I'm bringing it to the attention of council. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Perrin, would you?
Maybe just a point of clarification, Madam Mayor. So the report that was authored in by myself in July of 2015, it's very clear there that the municipality has a responsibility for flood control and dredging to mitigate flood control downstream of the lift bridge. That was done as a result of a hydraulic technical study that was done by Riggs, which is attached to that report, which is on council's agenda. There is no hydraulic studies or modeling upstream of the lift bridge that would indicate that the key issue with flood control rests with dredging upstream of the lift bridge. There's no technical study that I'm aware of, and it sounds like possibly Mr. Finlan may have a copy of such a study, but if he has that, maybe he'd like to share that with us. But as far as flood control, there's no study that suggests that dredging upstream of the lift bridge right now would mitigate any flood control. In fact, there's no evidence of what the elevation of the bed of Kettle Creek is currently. There is correspondence that Mr. Finlan provided with measurements. It would appear that they're inches below water, the water level. I'm not sure when that was taken, what the elevation of the water level was at that point in time, and how that affects channel capacity. So it would appear that those measurements might be like the distance below the surface of the water to the bed of Kettle Creek to try to justify that there's not enough depth for the vessels at the sailors squadron. So at this point, the work that was done in 2015 The report is fairly clear. The municipality doesn't have an obligation. At the time, council of the day elected to do the sampling upstream to support the dredging operation that was done in 2016, 2015 by the marina operators at that time, because there had to be sampling done in order to satisfy the Ministry of Environment. And we were doing sampling at the same time downstream of the lift bridge in preparation for the 2016 major dredge downstream of the lift bridge. Soundings were taken downstream of the lift bridge this last fall in 2021, and there is no indication that dredging is required downstream of the lift bridge for flood mitigation at this point.
Your worship, may I respond?
Certainly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perrin. The only thing I would ask council to consider is the effects of ice and water in a major rain with the development on the new development up on East Road. And the water no longer goes into the ground. It is directed, and I believe it's directed towards the creek. The issue is with development, it clearly is stated in the Riggs engineering report that with development, you're going to have, and you're allowing for building permits and that type of thing, you're going to increase the water capacity that goes down the creek. Whether it's downstream or upstream, you're going to have a problem. And the problem is that we're going to have flooding because the creek levels where we are, where we took the measurements, some of them are 3.5 feet. So the issue is the water that's coming down the creek, and it's a very narrow channel into the basin. And I agree with Mr. Perrin. I mean, I understand you've done dredging in the basin, the South Basin. The problem is that if you don't dredge north of the bridge, we're going to have an event. And I would strongly suggest that perhaps a study could be undertaken or something could happen to have a look at that, because just looking at south of the bridge is not going to answer this situation. We could very well have a very serious situation of flooding. And don't forget, please, that if you look at the floodplain, it goes all the way to food land. So if it goes to food land, then that's north of the bridge. So I think we have an issue. But I thank you, Mr. Perrin. I hear what you're saying, but I will look for this Ministry of Environment report that says that the Municipal Central Elgin does have the lead responsibility to work with the provincial government to ensure sedimentation that occurs in Kettle Creek is surveyed annually. So I understand you've been doing that in the south part of the basin. My concern is north of the bridge. And my concern is how we take care of this, because we can't finger point. I mean, I appreciate provincial government's finger pointing at municipality. And I appreciate that you're saying, well, it's not our responsibility. During the divestiture, it's only south of the South Basin, south of the bridge. But we do know that you did some dredging around the bridge, north of the bridge when you're doing construction, and that maybe was for construction purposes. But when that ice melts, if it's not a slow melt and we get rain, we're going to have a problem at that bottleneck. And that's where we're going to have some flooding. Anyways, thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to take more of your time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Mr. Perrin has something to say, and then Mr. Councillor Kravitz wishes to speak to.
So just a point of clarification for Mr. Finlan, he referenced all the stormwater runoff from the development up on East Road. I think it's important to clarify for council that none of that stormwater runoff goes to Kettle Creek. It's all diverted east to Little Creek. So it doesn't even come into this area. All the development goes through stormwater management facilities, which controls peak flows from pre-development to post-development. So I think it's important that we absolutely understand where the water flow is going, and it's not going into Kettle Creek for the development on East Road. And having been here for 24 years and having seen all those breakups, the issue with ice breakup is not the elevation of the bed of Kettle Creek. It's actually the major constraint. And if you speak to the staff at Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, the actual constraint is with respect to ice pileup because of the narrower channel capacity or width at the lift bridge. And that's why the municipality works with the Conservation Authority annually to ensure that we have equipment there to deal with that ice breakup in the event that it isn't able to get through the throat of the lift bridge.
Councillor Cravitz?
Oh, no, thank you. I was just going to mention the same thing about the stormwater management pond at Little Creek, but Mr. Parent answered that.
Thank you.
Just one question, Mr. Finlan, in one of your letters you referenced, there was about 80,000 in dredging that's required. Is that the dredging for around the slips, or is that an estimate to do the dredging from the lift bridge to your location?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. I don't have the final figure in front of me. What has to happen through Kettle Creek Conservation Authorities, we have to take samples of the creek bed, which we've done, and pay for those. That's around $5,000. And then depending on what the contamination is, and we know there is some contamination, we then have to have that isolated. There's a cost of that to have a truck somewhere that's isolated and looked after, and then it has to be taken somewhere else to be dealt with. So the dredging that we will have to undertake will be in front of the sailing squadron, and that is the water lots that we do rent. And so that's where it's very, very low and goes out and around the creek, just up towards Hetty Street. And then we know that it's very shallow towards Stan's Marina. We know that's very shallow going that an area where the commercial fishing vessel is just off of Hetty Street. It's probably maybe 4.5, 5 feet. I appreciate and thank you very much for the clarification on the water drainage from up on East Road. My only question would be, it goes to Little Creek. Does that have any flow towards Kettle Creek whatsoever? Okay, I see you shaking your head no.
No, it
Okay.
doesn't.
right.
Sorry, it goes direct through a creek over on Orchard Beach
Okay.
areas where Little Creek empties.
Fine, I stand corrected on that. Thank you very much. We're still concerned, obviously, about cost to us for dredging to be able to have boats go to the dock safely and all that. So my request is still to have some help with the cost of dredging. So thank you, Council.
Thank you. And I do know we looked quite a few years ago, and that because we do not own that land. Obviously above, in 2010, we acquired the land below the bridge, but I know there were studies done to see if it should be dredged, and there was real concern with the contamination that is on the west side, and that if it was disturbed, it could easily flow throughout, and that was one area that was recommended should not be dredged at any point because it was covered with silt. But that's on the west side of the creek, not on the side you're on.
Yeah, and thank you, Your Worship. We are aware of that. We are aware not to go near that. But I still think that regardless of the comments that were made with respect to keeping the South Basin dredged, that we will have an event, an issue. And remember that the report, when you look at the report that was done by Riggs and also what's in Mr. Parent's comments there, can't find the actual page, but it does talk about this being part of development, and that if there's going to be future development, that's the reason that was all done, there should be proper dredging. And my comment to you is that regardless of where in the creek, if we don't keep proper depth in the soil, in the creek and the level, that when the water flow comes down in a major event like we got on June 26th of rain, we are going to have a problem. So I just, if nothing else, I want it reported that we will have a problem there. I'm quite certain of it. So at least maybe an engineering study, or we can look into how we work with the province to help out here. But I don't think it should be on the businesses or on the sailing squadron to pay whatever it's going to be to dredge Kettle Creek. Thank you very much, Council.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? Councillor Rowe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just maybe more of a comment, I guess, but given the situation and given the confusion, is there any benefit to the municipality actually working with Mr. Finlan or Transport Canada just to get all of the boundaries and everything clear and who does what? And even if Transport Canada doesn't want to do the dredging, at least formalize that so then it is all a known factor unless it's already in that state. It's too bad this conversation, we didn't have it last year because the 2022 budget is already set for this year, but as a gesture of goodwill or something, like try to figure out how to manage this. We can't keep going north and north and north because there's a limit to it, but there are 4 or 5 marinas further north than this of the sailing squadron that may or may not have an issue either. I'm not sure what the conversations have been about that, but there is that economical advantage to Central Elgin of those businesses being there. So just, I would think we should at least talk to Transport Canada somehow to see what the what the rules are.
Mr. Perrin, do you have anything to say about that? No.
If council directs us to talk to Transport Canada, I can pretty much tell you what the answer is going to be. The answer is going to be, you want it dredged, you dredge it. And I guess my question is, how many, if it's $80,000, and I know it's not just the Port Sailing Squadron, talking with conservation staff, I've had inquiries from other marinas. I've had inquiries from other marinas. So all the soundings that are here are not in the middle of the creek bed. They're at the dock wall in order to facilitate vessels being able to be docked. So in fairness, I think it's more of an issue of having enough water to dock vessels rather than flood control. And if I may, that, if we're talking $80,000 and the dredging lasts for 5 years or 6 years, and the number of docks that you lease, that's not, insurmountable to be able to handle that or add that to the price of the dock, rather than have all of Central Elgin taxpayers provide that level of service that council has not considered in your financial planning.
Mr. Mr. Finlan, Mr. Shipway would like to speak first.
Yep.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just building on what Mr. Perrin has said, I think it's clear that the municipality has dredged the municipal water law that it took over. The municipality determined it would dredge that after KCCA commissioned the hydraulic study for that demonstrated there was a need for it. Then the municipality, in an effort to conduct flood mitigation activities from a scientific study, committed to chart datums to do that going forward. Staff have confirmed with KCCA, as Mr. Perrin indicated, there are no such studies for north of the bridge. Flood mitigation and warning falls under the conservation's responsibility under the new regs, and under the previous regs, it's their responsibility. So if in theory, if a study was to be commissioned, it would likely make sense that it would start there. Maybe like some of the other ones, it would be a shared cost, like the uprush. However, again, council has not, sort of with that asset management principles, considered delivering a new service to the community, especially in context of the budget. So by all means, we can carry out whatever action you'd like, but staff would be viewing this as you'd be committing the municipality to a new service. And historically, for doing that, KCCA has commissioned the applicable study in advance of that. And that would just give an opportunity for fulsome consideration of life cycle costs associated with this expansion in regards to who does what. KCCA and I'd say the municipality is quite comfortable in who does what. It would just be if the municipality is going to expand and start offering that service on privately owned or provincially or federally owned lands is the real question.
Madam, can I respond?
Certainly, and then Deputy Mayor Mark.
Thank you very much. I just like to respond to a couple of comments Mr. Perrin made. If his comment is that it's not anything to do with the center of the creek, but rather the shore because of taking the boats in and out, I would say to you all, that's very true. Absolutely what he says is absolutely accurate. But I'd ask you this question. The amount of money that comes into the municipality from all the boaters that dock, 300 plus boats, 300 plus slips that rent from businesses that pay taxes and all the rest of it, and food to food land and all the other things, all the restaurants, all the stuff that occurs in the village. There's a heck of a lot of people that come into this town from the United States, from Canada, and from London, all around to boat. And my question to you is that, would it not be something reasonable for the municipality to make sure that they can take their boats in and out safely, that they don't get stuck in the mud, that in addition to that, that when you're going up and down the creek, if you want to come in and get fuel and you had a boat that had a draft of 6 feet or 5 feet, that it would be safe for you to come to stands and get fuel, which you can't do right now. So I totally appreciate that this is something that, you know, the municipality inherited from the federal government, the divestiture. There was millions of dollars provided to the municipality. I think, Mr. Perrin, I think it was around 13 million that was provided to the municipality, which I totally understand is used for all kinds of things. So I'm not trying to point anything at in any of that. All I'm trying to ask is, it does not make any sense to those of us that are on the property that the dredging should be all on us. And I think there should be a shared cost or something. And that's what I'm asking council to look at, or to at least look at the impact of if we don't dredge going north of the bridge, how that is a fair thing for all the boaters and all the people that have businesses along the shore. Even if what Mr. Perrin says is completely accurate, and that is the center of the creek is perfect, which in fact I know it isn't. But if that was the case, and we're not dealing with any flooding issues, which I think you are, that's still an issue. It's still an issue. And I'd ask council to seriously look at either a study to see who, and I thank you very much, Councillor Rowe, to see who's responsible. You may very well be correct that it's all provincial, or it's Kettle Creek Conservation. I've talked to Paul at Kettle Creek. He says it's not ours. We have no responsibility to it. We issue the permits. That's it. So he's not taking responsibility. I understand the municipality's concern here. The provincial government's not taking responsibility. The federal government said it's not ours. So I'm just asking the question, well, what do we do here? And it should not be on all the businesses and on the sailing squadron. It may be some shared costs, but it shouldn't be on just us to clean up the creek and to make sure that two things occur. We can run businesses and we can sail safely, and that there's a proper floodway if there is a major rain event. And I stand corrected on the water coming down from the new developments. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Perrin. I appreciate that. But we still have an issue, folks, in my opinion. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you, councillors.
Deputy Mayor Marks wanted to say something. I will let him speak.
Just simply, and I certainly do not want to anger Mr. Finlan, but there's been water going down Kettle Creek for centuries, for years and years and years. I'm thinking here, my dad when he was a little kid, and never once has the municipality, whether it be Yarmouth Township or Port Stanley, ever done this. It's almost like your drainage laws. They're so set in stone and rigid. So if we did something like this here, we're way out of our lane. I spent 10 years on Kettle Creek, and no, that's we can't please everyone. And I'm sorry, that's just someplace we should not be. I can't support us going to Transport Canada.
I guess I'm trying to figure out why we have all those docks, 300 plus on the creek, and how that's fair to them to have a situation where they have to dredge. I just don't get that. But thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I don't agree with you. I'm not angered at all. Please understand that. I'm not angered at all. I just am confused as to why the municipality isn't involved in this.
Deputy Mayor Marks.
I guess I'd liken it to a ski resort, and they're having a tough year and there's no snow. It's not the municipalities, you know, we sympathize, but we have our mandates. I don't think, well, I know that this is not one of them.
Okay, fair enough. And I will look for the Ministry of Environment report that states it's there's a lead responsible in the municipality. I'll try and provide that to council if you want me to. But I'm pretty sure there's a report that states that very clearly.
Mr. Kravitz.
Just one thing, Mr. Finlan. You mentioned the 300 slips within Kettle Creek. Something the municipality could do is a fee for service and provide that service, but it would have to be attached to a certain amount to each dock. That could be an approach, something that could be discussed. But as far as the municipality fronting the money or doing the dredging, that's something that's not in council's agenda. So just a suggestion, just something to talk about. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I believe we have a resolution. Is there anyone? I'll let Diane read the resolution first, and then you can If anyone on council wants to change it in any way, we can do that before we vote on it.
Okay, the motion reads, Madam Mayor, the draft motion, whereas Ed Finlan, Commodore, Port Stanley Sailing Squadron, attended council as a delegation on Monday, February the 14th, 2022, respecting dredging north of the King George VI Lift Bridge, and whereas Mr. Finlan requested the municipality to complete a dredging program on Kettle Creek to include the north side of the King George VI Lift Bridge in 2022. Now therefore be it resolved, while council appreciates the concerns raised by Mr. Finlan on behalf of the Port Stanley Sailing Squadron, council directs no action as the municipality does not own the subject lands that are being requested to be dredged.
Is there anyone who wants any change to that motion? Seeing none? Would you, pardon me, we need a mover. Councillor Wynn and Deputy Mayor Marks, seconds.
Would you like it reread?
I don't think so. I think we all heard it clearly. If you would call the vote then, please.
Councillor Rowe?
No.
Councillor Krebitz?
Want it reread? The last paragraph.
The last, yes, could you please read the last?
The last paragraph, please. Now therefore be it resolved that while council appreciates the concerns raised by Mr. Finlan on behalf of the Port Stanley Sailing Squadron, council directs no action as the municipality does not own the subject lands that are being requested to be dredged.
Yes.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Okay, correspondence requiring action. Would you like to read the motion, please?
Certainly. Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that council receive the Integrity Commissioner report dated February the 5th, 2022, regarding the code of conduct complaint alleging that Councillor Fiona Wynn contravened sections 5.3, 8.0, and 11.3 of the code of conduct is sustained, and that with respect to corrective action, council impose a written reprimand confirming that the public apology to Firemark Inc. voluntarily provided by Councillor Fiona Wynn is necessary and required in light of the contravention, and that no additional corrective action is necessary.
Thank you. Councillor Wynn, you wish to speak?
Just so I'm clear, you're not asking me for another one. My original standing is what?
You mean you sent in a letter already?
Well, I've through the Integrity Commissioner, I publicly apologized here
Yes.
first before being asked. And then also in my reply to the complaint against me, I also apologized. So that's what you're stating, is that that's said and done with that, and you're not asking me to write another one.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just that is what the Ombudsman Integrity Commissioner is.
Okay.
And yes, your interpretation is that exactly as
Okay.
stated.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Thank you. Would you call the vote then, please?
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Krebitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. And now correspondence for information. Does anyone have any comments? It's just the school board responding to our suggestion. Would you read the motion, please?
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Krebitz, seconded by Councillor Fair, that correspondence item number 1 be received as information and filed.
Call the vote.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Krebitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Now the Central Elgin Planning Office. I don't see anyone from the planning office on. Councillor, or I'm sorry.
No, not counselor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sorry, Mr. Perrin.
Former life.
I've had that position for a long time. I don't. I can speak to any questions that council may have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions concerning this? Councillor Wynn?
I guess, not that I have an issue. I guess looking at this consent application and then again, the consent application that follows, I'm just having a problem following what's severed and what is going where. I know the properties very, very well, and looking at them, I just can't picture it in my mind. Sorry.
I'm assuming that they're going to be going this way instead of this way, that's all.
Yeah, so
So if I'm, may, Madam Mayor, so this overall parcel is comprised of 2 original lots on a registered plan.
right.
So the proponent is wanting to reconfigure those lots instead of having 2 lots that run side by side, run north-south. They want to reconfigure them to run 2 lots run east-west.
Yes.
And that's the basis of these 2 severances to allow that reorientation of those 2 lots. If they stuck with the original configuration, they wouldn't have to go through any of this.
Yeah.
And we conveyed that to the applicant. However, they chose that they wanted to
This
configure the lots.
Okay, I guess the property immediately to the south of it, that property's not involved in this at all. Okay, I think that's where a little bit of my confusion was, but you cleared that up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you read the motion, please?
First motion for the first report, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Fair, that reports EPO 322 be received for information and that council has no objections to consent application EO 622, 151 Rouen Street, lot 25, to the Land Division Committee, subject to the following recommended conditions: the chain link fence and hedgerow encroaching on the Rouen Street and Rouen Street municipal right-of-way be removed, and the framed sheds on the residential building lot be removed to the satisfaction of the municipality of Central Elgin. The applicant enters into an agreement with the municipality of Central Elgin to address administrative, technical, and financial matters. The severed land be merged in title with the abutting lands to the south, part of lot 24, registered plan number 396. That's subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the subject lands. The solicitor for the applicant is to provide an undertaking whereby they inform the committee in writing that the lands are being conveyed to an abutting property owner and thus a merger of title will take place, which merger shall include all interests held inclusive or mortgagee's interest. The municipality of Central Elgin be provided with a copy of the reference plan and a drainage reassessment be done if necessary at the owner's expense.
Thank you. Would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Rowe.
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz.
Yes.
Councillor Cook.
Yes.
Councillor Fair.
Yes.
Councillor Wynn.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks.
Yes.
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. And the second one with the resolution, please?
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that report CEPO 422 be received for information and that council has no objections to consent application number EO 722 151 Rouen Street, lot 24, to the Land Division Committee, subject to the following recommended conditions: the chain link fence and the hedgerow encroaching on the Rouen Street and Lawrence Street municipal right-of-way be removed, and the frame sheds on the residential building lot be removed to the satisfaction of the municipality of Central Elgin. The applicant enters into an agreement with the municipality of Central Elgin to address administrative, technical, and financial matters. The severed land be merged in title with the abutting lands to the north, part lot 25, registered plan number 396. That subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the subject lands. The solicitor for the applicant is to provide an undertaking whereby they inform the committee in writing that the lands are being conveyed to an abutting property owner and thus a merger of title will take place, which merger shall include all interests held inclusive or mortgagee's interest. The municipality of Central will be provided with a copy of the reference plan and a drainage reassessment be done if necessary at the owner's expense.
Would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook?
yes,
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Now the reports of the Chief Administrative Officer. The first one is the Delegation of Duties bylaw. Do you want to read the motion first, and then I'll ask if there's questions?
Certainly, the motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that report CAO 0522, redelegation of duties bylaw be received for information, and that staff be directed to bring forward a delegation of duties bylaw for council's consideration.
Thank you. And Councillor Fair, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm completely against this. I think we're delegating way too much responsibility there. It's already gotten to the point where councillors cannot send in residents' complaints or residents' letters without being rejected. I know I've sent in a full letter from one of the people that live in the next street over from me. It went to Mr. Stedema, then it went to Mr. Perrin, and the instructions on that email said, I'll inform him that this is the last time we'll allow this, and we will not accept it again unless it's on proper filled in form for the resident to complain. The man is 80 years in his 80s. He wrote up a whole page letter to do it. Other ones, I send in things from our residents and taxpayers, and it's clearly just rejected. If it's not proper form, there's no such thing anymore as verbal. And I think it's giving way too much authority on this bylaw.
No, complaints have always been written. I mean, you have to write complaints. Verbal complaints have never been responded to. They ask people to put it in writing. And it was, how many years ago did we put the complaints form in place?
Last year bylaws were done.
Mr. Perrin?
This municipality has only accepted written complaints for well over 2 decades.
Yes, I knew that.
So
But I meant, did we not come up with a
there
specific
was a new
form?
process that was put in place last year with respect to any bylaw complaints, because what it did, it provides a workflow so it doesn't get caught in someone's inbox or mailbox. There's the ability that once something gets logged that way, it's timestamped so that as director, I'm aware that things are being dealt with and acted upon. Everything that gets done on that bylaw complaint gets logged towards it so that when people suggest we're not doing anything, we can actually go back and what we've done. So I'm not aware of this complaint that Councillor Fair is responding to, because I've not received any handwritten complaints from anyone. So for him to suggest that it went to me, I'm not aware of it.
It was forwarded you from Matt Stedema. I have the email here.
And I will have a look.
Mr. Shipway?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely. There's a historic written complaint policy process, and then it was further refined last year. But just to be clear, the municipality will still accept at the counter as a form of accommodation. We'll write it down, have them sign it. We'll take emails from members of council and say, in the future, a resident can just submit directly through the form because it will be more efficient. However, for example, we can take that email and put it into the complaint process and handle it that way. And again, that's just to enhance due diligence and so that we can have metrics on it at the end of the day. But in the most respectful way possible, I do not believe the municipality has ever said, hey, we're not going to process a complaint. We have a responsibility to process those. So ultimately, they will get looked at. Absolutely, at the end of the day, the delegation of duties bylaw is council's decision to assess and decide how it wants to move forward. We've just been trying to knock out things in accordance with the strategic plan to try to deliver more positive outcomes to contribute to those strategic items. I would say the delegation of duties bylaw, of the 79 items contemplated within it, only 13 of them would be new. The majority of them are completed by staff anyway. There's just no due diligence or documentation of that. So this protects both council and staff. But obviously, just putting it forward for your consideration. And if you direct, we'd bring back a bylaw for the same.
Thank you. I do know of one citizen or two citizens that have been complaining a lot and sending in emails. And I will say Mr. Stedema and Mr. Perrin have responded to them every time and copied me on it. So I'm fully aware, and they're not on any special forum. They're just very concerned about a property beside them. Councillor Rowe, you wanted to speak, and then Deputy Mayor Marks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was actually looking at this document as a summary of job descriptions, I guess, as to what happens on a day-to-day basis that staff does. So I actually thought it was a very good document, and it would have been really helpful to have this at orientation several years ago. But nonetheless, I think it's very valid. There are a few places where I thought maybe there should be a backup person assigned to a couple of the items. But outside of that, pretty much everything that was in there, I've seen take place, I guess. So I thought it was a good thing. And I would just like to vouch for the report of concern site on the website for those people that I have talked to. I direct them to that site. They are more than happy to do that and it seems to be working, I guess, on my end. So it's perhaps a new system and only works for maybe certain age groups or certain people, but it is a good thing, and being able to track them, I think, is important.
Deputy Mayor Marks.
Just, I've been here for quite a while and, seen a lot of good employees come and go at Central Elgin. I've always been very proud of, everyone can have a bad day, but by and large, we are very fortunate. I think you only have to go to maybe to a bigger municipality where, someone can make a complaint or our staff will pick the phone up, talk to them. By and large, I had a gentleman call me today, he's 82 years old. I did not tell him to do, he's not going to do that, but I'll make sure he gets what he needs. And I know that Central Elgin staff will assist him. So I don't see where you're coming from with this. I don't agree with it, I guess. I've had over the years, I can't say enough good about our staff. There's some, there always is. The vast majority have been good employees.
Councillor Kravitz.
I just wanted to mirror what Councillor Rose said about the orientation. That's the exact same thing that I felt when I was reading this document. It's something that's going to be very good for the next term of council as an orientation document. It's something that it directs people, it directs a councillor on where to turn to if they have questions as well. So I think it's a great asset to have this document.
That's right. And you don't have to bother the CAO every time you have a concern. That's what I do, I'm afraid. Any other comments or questions?
Oh.
Councillor Rowe.
Just one of the bylaws that were to be repealed because of this new bylaw. I was just curious about it was bylaw 2471 that was specific to the pandemic actions. Are those activities covered in this document somewhere?
To you, Madam Mayor, that bylaw specifically delegated authority to the CAO in the event that a quorum wasn't attainable. That was the key component of that bylaw. And amendments to the Municipal Act that permitted hybrid meetings, and subsequent amendments to the Municipality of Central Elgin procedural bylaw have pretty much eliminated the issue of quorum at meetings. And frankly, as the CAO, I'd be more comfortable presenting those sort of decisions to council where we can have an emergency meeting, we can have a special meeting, and this council has been quite flexible and that hasn't been an issue. That being said, there is still, I think it's number 49, still deals with emergency actions that required in accordance with the municipal emergency plan. So I do feel through the provincial legislation amendment, procedural bylaw, and this bylaw, the municipality is fully covered.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Cook,
You muted yourself, Karen.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
No.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. The next one is the sale and other disposition of land bylaw. You want to read the motion first, then I'll ask for questions and concerns.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, second by Councillor Cravitz, that report CAO 0722 resale and other disposition of land bylaw be received for information, and that staff be directed to bring forward a sale and other disposition of land bylaw for council consideration.
Any questions or concerns on this one? Mr. Rowe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just having a past reference point for some of these issues, is there anything missing from this particular document? And in particular, it's around what is council's true role in arbitrating any disputes when there are multiple parties interested in a piece of land that is for sale, and sort of separate from that, I guess, do those parties need to be abutting to that parcel to participate in this, or does it matter?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's a few questions in there.
Yes, I know.
The first one is that, like, generally this has been updated again with best practice at this point in time, with assistance and frankly leadership from the municipal solicitor, and it deals with two components. One, enhancing the process specifically for on open road allowance or disposition of like land, again, because of some of the procedural interesting processes that took place before, I guess. And then number two, to make sure that there's clear due diligence and disclaimer for when dealing with potentially environmentally contaminated land. So that's the general update to the process. In regards to an unopened road allowance or a parcel of land, an applicant can come forward. That can be any person or corporate body can come forward, and it would be considered at the time, and it would be determined based on what that end lot would create. If it was a road allowance, does it go to abutting property owners where it would make sense to add it to those properties? Or if it's large enough to be a standalone lot, would it be marketed publicly to that effect, sorry. And then in regards to final decision-making authority, council ultimately should retain that. And, drawing on maybe a previous situation, this is written very clearly that if an applicant comes forward or other parties get involved, they agree to cover all costs associated with the process. So if it has to be done 6 times over because there's no agreement on the final design of said road allowance and how it would be sold, the municipality is not out any cost for that and does not have any responsibility for those costs. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, the municipality can just pull it back without significant legal jeopardy, or just make the decision and say, this is the outcome. And I really think it's important in these situations for council to ultimately have the ultimate authority for making that decision.
Any other questions? If not, would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. And now the third one on the election sign bylaw. To read the motion, please.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Wynn, seconded by Councillor Cravitz, that report CAO 2022 re-election sign bylaw be received for information and that staff be directed to bring forward an election sign bylaw for council consideration.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this one? I had made the suggestion that we might look at what Malahide have done, and they've had a bylaw for quite a while now that only allows election signs up 5 weeks prior to the day of the election, just so, I mean, what bothers me is that the provincial election and the municipal election are in the same year. So you just get over the provincial election signs being everywhere, and then all of a sudden they're the municipal signs everywhere. And I thought 5 weeks would be a little shorter than from nomination day in August through to end of October, later October. That's all I was suggesting, because I must admit I get tired of the election signs myself. But that's not the case here. That's not what's recommended. So any other questions or concerns? If not, would you read the motion, please?
I read the motion.
I'm sorry, would you call the vote, please? Sorry.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes.
The resolution carries.
I think somehow with Councillor Cook, she has been unmuted and then she mutes herself when she goes to speak. But she's muted right now, so hopefully that will work for her. Okay, the Director of Financial Services, the Port Stanley Business Improvement Area Minimum Levy. Any questions on this one? Councillor Fair.
I couldn't understand why they'd want to double it. Why would they come from them that they wanted to double it? Or am I getting the wrong impression on this?
Well, they have this levy. That's the money they have to work with for advertising, for events, et cetera. So all they're doing is doubling the lowest ones, the people that pay the least. They haven't increased the ones who pay the most at this point. They did 2 or 3 years ago, but it's just increasing the lowest level only. It just gives them enough money as an organization to work with the money. So it's up to them to try and set this, but council has to finally agree depending on whether there are complaints from the business owners. Councillor Rowe?
Madam Mayor, if I could add to that, just for clarity, it doesn't mean that everybody in the BIA group is having their levy doubled. There's calculations based on your assessment and so on. So at the end of the day, it impacts 10 people, and some of those are to a matter of $5, $3.58, $50. So there's really just 10, I believe it was, that were doubled in my rough estimation.
I was just thinking.
Out of the 89, sorry, just to be clear.
I was just thinking, given that we've just come out of a terrible, terrible couple of years, why they would want to do it now, but if it's fairly insignificant, then if it's spread, okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Rowe.
I sit on the BIA for Port Stanley. So I think the way to look at this would hopefully be the businesses. It's an added way to advertise your business. So yes, they've been through tough times, I guess. And so we're all trying together to collectively come up with a better way to do that. And with the cost of goods and supplies and so on continuously increasing, it's very difficult to kind of keep up. And the last time this was increased was in 2017. So it was something that the committee itself had thought that would be something that we needed to do in order to really be effective.
Okay, thank you. Would you call the vote then, please? Okay. You didn't read the motion? I'm sorry. I'm mixing them up back and forth here. Sorry. Read the motion, please.
Motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Fair, that report DFS 0522, report Stanley Business Improvement Area Minimum Levy be received for information, and that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin approve in principle the amendment of the Port Stanley BIA minimum levy to $500.
Thank you. Call the vote now.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. Okay, now the Director of Fire Rescue, Fire Chief, monthly alarm activity report for January. Any questions you have for Mr. Ormerod? No questions, no comments. I do know that our Port Stanley Fire Hall, they're starting to work out of it. It's not officially opened yet, but they are working out of it. And as you know, we sold the old fire hall. So it's nice that they are able to. When I visited them around Christmas time, they were busy moving a lot of their things in mid-December when I was there. They were taking a lot of their articles out and moving it up there. So they, guess what, near 20th of January or somewhere in that area, they actually started to work out of there, and I hope it's working really well for them. Would you call the vote, read the motion, and then call the vote, please?
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that report FSO 222, the monthly alarm activities report, January of 2022, be received for information.
Call the vote.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Cook, Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Councillor Wynn,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Now the Director of Asset Management and Development Services with the January monthly building and bylaw report. Any questions on this one? Councillor Kravitz.
Just on the form that shows the building report data for 2021 to 2022, there's one building permit that was $24 million. And it kind of skews what I see when I'm looking at this. I'm just wondering if we can isolate that somehow and maybe say the number of units that is, or because it shows 3.5 million last year with 24 permits, and this year it's 25 million with 14. But one of them is the development at Kokomo, the apartment. So I don't know if something we could do to reflect that differently in this report in the future.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Would you read the motion, please?
Moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that report AMDS 0222, read January 2022 monthly building and bylaw report, be received for information.
Call the vote, please.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes, and I am glad to see that apartment has started.
I agree.
Councillor Cook, Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Councillor Wynn,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Okay, bylaws, any comments or questions on any of the bylaws that are coming up? I had one that I was surprised. We traditionally with the advanced polls, we've put them around in various locations, and we seem to have concentrated them all now in the two arenas in the Masonic Hall. Is that because I know in the past we've always had one in Sparta, et cetera. So just curious. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, through you to the rest of council, staff have, as you can know, are making plans. We have run into some roadblocks of past areas or establishments that we tried to use, and because of COVID, we are going to be very cognizant of trying to retain large spaces so that we can run a safe election, knowing that if any restrictions did come into place in October, we'd still be able to manage the flow of the electors coming through a safe spot.
That makes it perfect sense. Yeah. Anyone else on any other bylaws? If not, would you read the motion, the first motion on them?
Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Kravitz, that bylaws 2684, 2685, 2687 be read a first and a second time.
Call the vote?
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz.
Yes.
Councillor Cook, Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Councillor Wynn,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Now the next motion, which includes pad and drain bylaw.
Correct, for the third reading, yes. Motion reads, moved by Councillor Wynn, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that bylaws 2658, 2684, 2685, 2687 be read a third time and finally passed.
Call the vote, please.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz.
Yes.
Councillor Cook. Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Councillor Wynn,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. I see no public notice. Motion or notice of motion? Yes.
Madam Mayor, staff have prepared a motion with respect to the St. Thomas and District Chamber of Commerce letter that was circulated to members of council.
Thank you.
If you want to elaborate on that or prepare to draft motion.
Yes, that was something I sent around and everybody did respond back because I thought it was a great idea that we do that. And I heard back from most of you that you agreed that you thought it was a good idea. So would you read the motion then, Mrs.
draft
The
motion
resolution, yeah.
reads, whereas council has received correspondence from the St. Thomas and District Chamber of Commerce, read an open letter from Canadian businesses to our elected representatives dated February the 11th, 2022, concerning the ongoing blockades of critical infrastructure across the country. Whereas the St. Thomas and District Chamber of Commerce has joined more than 150 plus Canadian businesses and associations in sending said correspondence to our elected representatives concerning this issue. Now therefore be it resolved that Central Elgin Council supports the position of the St. Thomas and District Chamber of Commerce and Canada's business community seeking to restore the rule of law and bring a successful end to these actions that are damaging our economy and the well-being of our citizens.
Thank you, because I think it is very important and I certainly support action being taken to stop this. Anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, would you call the vote, please?
I do have the mover as Councillor Wynn and the seconder as Councillor Fair on that. I don't think I read
Okay.
that part. Okay,
Thank you.
apologies. Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Other business, and I do want to bring up one thing. Deputy Mayor Marks and I are both on the Southwest Public Health. They're now Zoom meetings instead of conference call, and they gave us a report on this provincial blitz that has been happening in various places. And Port Stanley was the first place they went to. They fined a lot of businesses. I think there was one establishment that had a warning, the rest all were fined. None of the other towns have had that type of behavior. And they haven't done Aylmer, which was another concern, but both Deputy Mayor Marks and myself expressed our concern with how arbitrary they were in Port Stanley, the very first one they went to, as if businesses haven't been suffering enough through COVID. And Central Elgin have never issued any fines. We have warned people, we've tried to educate them, we've tried to cooperate with them, but we have not fined them because we know they're struggling. And we know they want to do the right thing. And the regulations had just changed again a few days before that. So to me, it was extremely unfair. We both, Deputy Mayor Marks and myself, both felt that was very unfair. And I'd like to know, I know when I spoke with Mr. Urick about it, he asked that the businesses all file a complaint about it and protest the fine. I don't know if that has happened or not. He was uncertain of that himself, but he did say that Monty McNaughton said that they would probably be forgiven if they did. Councillor Wynn.
Is there any benefit to us as a council passing some resolution or sending something to the effect that they consider reversing that on behalf of our businesses, as they were the only ones basically targeted at this point.
At that, they were the very first place. They have visited quite a few places now, but they were first, definitely.
Yeah, and should it come from all of council to Southwest Public Health, or?
It's
Do you-
not Southwest Public Health. They have no say over it at all,
No, but to
the province.
province, sorry. Is there, like, should it come from us as a council to try and push it forward, or to back up the businesses as well?
What are your?
So they know that we are in fact.
Yes, and I feel very badly too, because there were people who were blaming me as if I had instigated this. I had nothing whatsoever. None of this council had anything to do with this or Central Elgin. Deputy Mayor Marks?
Well, I think a resolution from this council, I think we need to direct it to the multi-ministry team campaign report. I've got it here. I've got to figure out here. I'll forward it to Mr. Shipway and he can maybe share it. It bothered me, as it bothered you. There's a couple of gentlemen, enforcement officers from the Essex area, from what I've been told, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're probably paid mileage to drive down here on a weekend, paid overtime, and they went down. There's 143 visits. They went to Oxford in the Southwestern Public Health area. So Oxford, Tillsonburg, Ingersoll, with the exception of Aylmer. And this, we didn't know this. I asked this at a public health meeting and they give us the answers on our phone call. And I had to bug them a couple. Well, they did bring the answers. So, no, it wasn't fair. There was, the numbers are here, we go through it, but 143, most of them got an educational, why don't you do it this way, et cetera, instruction rather than education rather than a fine. But the big fines were in the Port Stanley area, and 2 weeks before Christmas, it ruined a lot of people's Christmas, if you ask me. And that's why I kept bugging them, because I think they deserved an answer and they haven't got it yet. So if we were to make a resolution here and send it, but it's not the health unit. It's Ministry of the Environment, Ministry of Labor, and Finance, I believe. It was a joint effort, and they had some insight from the health unit. And along with the mayor and myself, we're not against enforcement. If someone's breaking the law, and we know there was a few restaurants in other municipalities that were flaunting the law, and nothing happened. So if someone's breaking the law, we just wanted equal enforcement, and there was no equal enforcement. The ones in Port Stanley, they got whacked.
Well, in Port Stanley, they should have been warned instead of being fined like most of the others were. They are coming back here in February.
It says they're coming back.
Yeah, so.
Elmer never got a visit.
Well, they said Elmer's in the second round. Councillor Fair.
Yeah, I agree. There should have been more warnings, and the thing is, the ones that I checked into they weren't actually blatantly breaking the rules. They didn't get their paperwork done. That was a lot of it was their paperwork was not up to date, and some of the reporting and the like when you're supposed to have your checklist sheets, some things like that, which an education process would have gone a lot better. I haven't been able to talk to Monty McNaughton, but I can. But I thought that if the people did address it with someone, that they would have been forgiven. But I'm not aware of if they actually did follow up on that or not. But I could follow up on it. I have contacts to do that.
Well, Mr. Urick told me that Mr. McNaughton couldn't just forgive it, but they could object to it and then it would be probably dismissed. But he can't just automatically forgive them just for that. But he did feel that the people in Port had grounds for getting it dismissed.
And they can't guarantee it, but they could certainly review it.
Councillor Kravitz and then Councillor Wynn.
I would like our council to send some sort of letter to the multi-ministry. As they did the 143 inspections, there was less than 20% of compliance in the entire 143. it should have been an education program, not a fine. And that's something we should maybe stress to the ministry, that we would like to, have those fines removed or whatever they could do with it, whatever can be done, and make it an education program. It was meant to be an education program, not to punish people. And, I think there was 15 businesses in Port Stanley, and there was zero compliance, so they were all fine. It was ridiculous, the outturn. So I think we should do something as a council.
Councillor Wynn.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if the rest of council agrees, I'd like to see something sent forward, and in particular, since said government was just announcing today that it's going to be going back on restrictions. So if that's the case, then I think that our businesses who would like that reversed should have it reversed. And I definitely think that we should back that up with something.
Well, I know they did contact the local OPP and ask them for a list of all businesses that there'd been complaints of, and they refused to give it to them.
Good for them.
Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If Councillor Wynn is moving that a resolution be created, I will most certainly second that. There was nothing equitable about this. There was nothing equitable about the actual fine amount versus what was required. It is actually appalling as to how this was handled. And if it's going to come back in February sometime, given now that the March 1st vaccination date has changed, I don't know what their point of visiting some time between now and then is. So that, if that can be included somehow in the resolution.
I'd also like to see the resolution provided to the businesses that were fined so that they're aware of the fact that we very strongly object to this. Deputy Mayor Marks.
I just forwarded, you get that? So you could actually, I've got it if Mr. Shipway can distribute so everyone can read it. But I think the issue to me is maybe the fines get dismissed, but the real issue is there was not a fair, like why go and pick on those people? It was one or two employees, just pretty overzealous, and to ruin people's Christmas and let that fine hang over their heads. It's the toughest job in the world, small business. And to me, it really bothered me. It still does. So, yeah, I'm certainly in favor of sending some kind of a resolution.
Councillor Wynn.
I'm sorry, but you know me, I got to stir things up with what Ontario and basically Canada has been dealing with for the last few weeks. And we're still dealing with it. And these small businesses nailed the way they were. It would be in that government's best interest to ensure that this was corrected, I would say. So.
This is, now, Mr. Shipway, do you want to word this motion or?
Would you like me to take a crack
Would you
at
like to word the motion then?
No, I better not. I've already been in trouble once. I don't need to.
Mr. Shipway?
To you, Madam Mayor, I just want to clarify one thing. Although the resolution can absolutely be crafted, we do not have a list of those businesses. As a municipality, we don't have that information. So if a member of council would like to circulate it to those businesses that were fine, that would be fine. But just we do not have that list of information internally. Based on your conversation as a starting point, I guess for your consideration, that the Council of the Corporation, the Municipality of Central Elgin request Monty McNaughton, Minister of Labour, Training and Skills Development, revisit the workplace inspection campaign offences issued on December 10th and 11th, 2021 by the multi-ministry team of provincial offences officers in Port Stanley and the Municipality of Central Elgin in favour of educational communications as were conducted in other areas in Elgin County and St. Thomas.
That basically cover what you want to say? I believe in the report, does it have a list of the businesses that were visited? Deputy Mayor Marks?
Doesn't name the businesses, but like
just the numbers.
Example, Belmont had 2 visits, Port Stanley had 15,
Yes.
St. Thomas only had 22. And they there was 61 formal warnings, but no fine, 21 part 1 offenses and another one bigger offense. But I think there was like, I thought there was 17 or 11 or 17. Like, most of them were in Port Stanley.
Yeah, there were 11 and
And like the city, the rest of the places in Oxford, like it was just warnings.
Councillor Rowe.
Rather than us trying to figure out who got the penalties, would it be better that we ask them to send those same businesses a formal apology somehow?
Or go through the BIA and
No.
you can distribute it.
Well, I suppose they could, but it would be better if it came right through.
He's saying with that Mr. McNaughton's
Send a formal.
send a formal apology.
Well, I'll hold my breath, but
Oh, but
you know how we.
make the request, right?
Mr. Shipway, you were able to add that?
I think so.
What people that didn't comply.
My understanding is that Councillor Wynn and Councillor Rowe were the mover and second.
Stock had 15, Stanley had 15.
Yeah. Elmer had 0.
Through you, Madam Mayor, with the addition as a new recital and that the Ministry of Labor Training and Skills Development and multi-ministry team of provincial offences officers send correspondence to those businesses and persons fined in Port Stanley outlining the option to vacate the charges.
And offer a formal apology.
And offer a formal apology.
Okay, are you okay with that, Councillor Wynn and Councillor Rowe?
Yeah.
Okay. Diane will call the vote.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Cook,
With the apology.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Councillor Wynn,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Anyone else have any other business? Councillor Kravitz.
I just want to bring something up. I sit on the primary water board and there's been a discussion, Mr. Brooks, he's well aware of it too. There's been a steering committee established for a municipal service board. And what they're looking at doing is combining Lake Huron and the Elgin primary water board systems. They're both administered through the City of London. And it has to be 100% buy-in. It's something, it's almost an exercise in frustration what's happening right now. There's another meeting coming up. I just want to bring council, just to make council just briefly aware of it. Just if you hear rumblings of what's happening with different municipalities, it has to be 100% buy-in. And as for myself, and I believe Mr. Burke can back me up, the people in the Lake Huron water system, to do a full amalgamation of the two boards, it's something that there's no benefit for them at all. There's different rates, different debt levels, and it's the Andrew Henry, who's the administrator of both boards. He's the one that's, because there's a little bit of duplication on his end with having the two separate boards, but it was something that was provincially mandated when the boards were laid out with the Huron and Elgin area water systems. So it's just something in the works right now. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. It's going to be something that the council, it'll be coming back to council in the future, and we will have to make a decision. But as far as the discussions go, I've been in contact with Mr. Shipway as well as Mr. Brooks, and I are both on the committee as our representatives through the primary board. So it's just something I just wanted to bring up at this point. So there's nothing earth-shattering at this moment, and I can't see it going much further. And honestly, that's the way we feel, but I will keep you updated as time goes on.
Thank you. Any other new business? If not, motion to move into closed.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that council proceed into closed session at 8:24 in order to address a matter pertaining to a position, plan, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board.
Call the vote, please.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution.
You're live.
thank you. We've just moved out of closed session, so motions from closed.
First motion, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Wynn, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that confidential report CO 0222 reinsurance claim be received as information and that staff proceed as directed by council.
Call the vote, please.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
next one.
Next motion, moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Cravitz, that confidential report CO 0422, read Dominion of Canada building be received as information and that staff be directed to proceed as outlined in confidential report CAO 0422.
Call the vote.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
Resolution carries. Next motion, Madam Mayor.
yes,
Moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Rowe, the confidential report CAO 922, VCA Bell Medical Center be received as information and that staff proceed as directed by council.
call the vote.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. Final bylaw now, please.
Affirmatory bylaw, Madam Mayor. Motion reads, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Wynn, that bylaw 2686 be read a first and a second time.
Call the vote.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. And the next one on the bylaw.
Motion on the bylaw, moved by Councillor Wynn, seconded by Councillor Cravitz. 2686 be read a third time and finally passed.
Call the vote.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. And the final motion.
To adjourn. Reads, moved by Councillor Wynn, seconded by Councillor Fair, that the regular meeting of council dated Monday, February the 14th, 2022 be adjourned at 7:27 PM. And the next regular meeting of council be scheduled for Monday, February the 28th, 2022.
Call the vote.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes. Did it say 727 or?
9:27?
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear it
I
that.
may have said 7:27, 9:27.
Okay, yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
I was going to say, all I was looking at was the 27. I was looking at the clock.
Yeah. Well, I was excited that it was only 727.
I can tell it's not.